So, hello everyone. I guess everything is working, so today I will be continuing on this guy. But I guess instead of doing this guy, I will do the background, so it it will be a bit easier for me to decide how much details I want in here. And if anyone is new, my name is Eric and I'm just redesigning stuff for fun, to just learn and whatnot. So as always, if you have any questions or whatever, feel free to ask them. I will answer best to my knowledge. Also, for the past, I feel like forever, I have been slightly feeling ill and I have a constant cough. So if I will be coughing and if I will be annoying, my bad and your bad luck, because I will be coughing a lot. So yeah, long story short. So the first thing that I want to do is to adjust the perspective, the background a bit. Mostly working at the moment on with the photo that I stole from the internet, stole from the web to just make a mock-up, and then I will basically repaint over it, so the entire thing will just look a bit nicer. And yeah, and if I today will be a little bit more quiet, it's because I don't even know if I hear properly everything, so the stuff that I'm hearing is a little bit muffled because of everything is here is clogged. So I feel like everything is a bit quieter recently for me. But yeah, other than that, everything is cool. So I want to touch the background a bit more, because if I'm going to paint the character nicely and properly and everything and whatnot, I need to have a good understanding of the amount of detail that I need to apply to this guy, so it will look okay-ish. And without the constant context of the environment, it will be much harder to guess how much detail do I need. So I won't go to the uncanny valley of, I don't even know if this is a right expression, the uncanny valley. So, but I won't just over render him, so I won't spend 10 hours rendering a toe or something like this, and it turns out the environment then would need to have photorealistic quality. I don't want to do it. I kind of want to keep things nicely rendered, but still a little bit more painterly. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to prepare myself a template, and I want to adjust it to move some sliders and whatnot, just to match the colors, basically to do the fine tuning and everything. So yeah, if I were to copy a game, everything should be a little bit more saturated, so all the colors should be more golden. So instead of doing something like this, what I normally would do, because I usually prefer those type of colors that are a little bit dimmer, I should go with something like this. So I think I will go slightly more saturated, so the entire thing will be slightly warmer, but not too much. And yeah, and this is how I will continue with it. So to make the painting of it, I guess I will just compress make a duplicate of everything above, then do a duplicate in here, duplicate those guys to the new canvas. So we do have those in here, and then I will move the canvas in here. Let me grab some white. Not all layers. So I can constantly look on what I want to do, what I want to achieve in here, while actually painting on the right side, so it will be slightly easier for me to understand what I am actually going for. And a good thing to know is what is your character looking like. So you can always create like a stroke, or like, I don't know, a black one. Let me make a display capture so you will see what I'm doing. Yeah, so basically if you double click on a layer, you can go to the stroke option, make like a stroke of a character that you do have in here. So let's say something like 10, then right click on the effect, create layer, and this way you are getting like the layer. Then you can select the character, remove it from the layer, and if you do this, then you have like an outline. So it's not something that is like needed, that I must have, but it definitely helps. So yeah, it won't hurt me definitely that I know more or less where the character is. So yeah, long story short, now it's time to paint. And I will be just using this photo, so I will just color pick everything from it. I will adjust the colors during the painting and everything, but I don't think there's like a need for me to like paint everything from scratch, because I kind of want this photorealistic quality to still be here. And genuinely, I think this photo is just like a good photo. So I think this is like a cool photo plate to work on. And yeah, and if you are going to do stuff like this, remember usually photos are under copyright, so you can't use those things commercially in a sense, unless you change them to a degree where it's basically virtually impossible to say that they were the source photos. So yeah, and I definitely need to work on the scale of pretty much everything. So let me just stop rotating everything, because I need to get rid of all the blur effects and everything from the lens. So we'll just need to like paint over pretty much everything. So yeah, now I'm basically getting rid of all the informations. If I go outside the line, it does not really matter. Later I will just trim it. So yeah. But also now you can see what is really cool about grabbing colors from the photographs. You will get much more variety in color, because look how many different hues and shades and everything of basically virtually the same color I get in here. So when I will be painting, the color picking, I mean when I start painting and doing details, everything will look a little bit more natural, because like the details will vary much more. So, and also today I can show you, unless I do have a brush like this, I might have actually a brush like this, or something like this will also work nice for grass. So yeah, if you want to have like a lot of like, small lines and whatnot to happen. Yeah, but I wanted to show you how to make a brush that basically will imitate a grass, because I do have something like this, but this is not exactly what I wanted. I wanted more like a soft grass, but on this I guess we will continue later. Also brushes like this are cool, that are not like ideally like a line, but they have like a texture or something on them. They sometimes might be very useful, but in this case a normal like circle will do just fine. So while adding the grass, I do believe it's better to go from like dark to bright, because if you will go from dark to bright, there is a higher chance that everything will look a little bit more like 3D, that you will have this like dimension, because of course the more dense the object is, like the denser the grass is, the darker it will get, like closer to the ground, because the light will have more problems to reach those places. So it does make sense, I would say. Also in here you can see the grass naturally is a bit darker, closer to the ground. So I believe it's also because there's a little bit more moisture closer to the ground. and the thing that is more in the air is just like more dried up. More sun is like flashing on it, so it's kind of like natural that that it is getting paler and brighter. So yeah, on the mountains, I want the mountain ranges to be much lower. And yeah. And later I will also add maybe some trees and stuff like this. At some point I kind of wanted to make just like almost a direct copy, like not a copy but a study of how Un Lee did it, because like his painting is basically perfect for this scenario. But I was like, okay, I will like look at it, I will try to analyze how he achieved certain like effects, but I don't want to make like an exact copy. So at least now in here, when I am trying to establish all the details and everything, I will try to not look at it, to not get like too influenced by it. Because like as I said, his ogre or troll or whatever it is just like way too fitting to this entire idea of this city. It's like basically a perfect fit. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it's quite annoying that you want to do something, but accidentally you know, or you find something that is basically a perfect answer for your problem, and you will feel a bit like weird if you would just kinda, in a sense, steal it. Because sometimes someone will just like nail your idea like perfectly without even knowing it. So it's always kinda like bumming down if something like this happens. If you discover like that something like this had happened. So all the stuff in here. And also while painting, I try to constantly look on the miniature in the corner. I have no idea why it's visible, since I'm not in a display capture. It should not be visible, but I mean, it's nice it's working. So yeah. Some background. Oh, and also if I use the dodge tool on a background, it will give me a really nice color for all the grass in the background, like this bright golden hues. What works really well, in my opinion. It does look like there are like clumps of grass in the distance. Of course, the terrain does not need to be like perfectly like horizontal. I might have some like bumps and everything, so this is why I'm also not trying to keep all the brush strokes perfectly horizontal. I think something like to have some variety in a ground level in this case is a good idea. And also, if I, as I said, if I sound a bit different today, a bit tired, it's because of the sickness or the illness. I'm not sure what is the difference, but I'm feeling kinda well. Like not 100% well, but it's much better than it was like several days ago. Especially on the Artok. On the Artok I constantly wanted to cough. Like I constantly felt the urge to just sit and cough all the time. It was so annoying. I had to like mute myself every like now and then to just cough without any problems. Yeah, so now if you want to draw grass, this is pretty much how you can approach it. I think there's also a there is, so oh, it's a stock photo, okay. I just noticed in here that there is like a watermark, or I thought I saw it. So yeah, usually also be careful with stuff like this, because I have seen it happen that someone was like basically stealing something from the web, but something that was under a copyright, and they were even uploading an artwork with a copyrighted like sign because they just did not notice they placed it in the artwork, which is kind of weird that it could happen, but yeah. But shit like this happen all the time. Yeah. So now a lot is just like drawing the same stuff over and over again. This will basically be like thousands and thousands of strokes. So that thing will look okay. Also, let me check how Only actually did it, because I do have a reference in here. And yeah, as you can see, it's like just thousands and thousands of strokes and like stuff like this in the background. So yeah, a long way to go with this, guys. Also, this is, I believe, from Magic the Gathering. It's also a really nice hue. I wanted to go with a hue between this and that. I feel like this will be a good balance, so something a bit more rich in color. But yeah, but also the idea is in the foreground I want to have my strokes a bit bigger than I have them in the background. So in the background, if I'm going to paint something, it just makes the like the strands of grass smaller and thinner and denser because they are more in the background. So yeah, this to be a bit bigger, so everything that is going to be on the front plane should just be brighter. And also composition wise, I kind of want the front of the canvas to be the brightest, so when I'm looking at this guy, I want kind of, let me draw it with red. So I want like this area to be darker, so the more red the darker it will get. Well, maybe this brush will be better for it. Yeah, and then again something like this to happen, and the area there, I forgot how to talk, area in the white will be like brighter, so it will be much easier to read the actual depth of everything that is happening in here. And I also feel it will look nice. So yeah. And also on Lee you can see it's not like uniformly horizontal. What I really like are those like random strands going from left to right. It adds a lot of realism to it. So I need to keep it in mind that I should include something like this, because I might go into this like valley of doing everything the same way, and it will kill a lot of the possible realism that I want to achieve. So I need to remember that not every single strand needs to be like perpendicular to each other, and it's really easy to forget about something this obvious. Because at some point, if you just turn off your brain and go like full auto, then you will just like copy like mindlessly the same movement, and the entire thing will look just like boring and shitty. Also, this area in here kind of reminds me like there's a piece of ground visible. Maybe it's a good idea to have some ground in here. I guess it might be cool. And also remember, the darker the color, the more saturated it should be. So if I'm going to make some shadows in here on a ground, I want them to be more saturated. This is really like a simplified version, like simplified explanations of colors, but it does really work, honestly. I do feel this is good enough to be treated as like a almost universal rule. Talking is hard today. So yeah. So it won't be the most like passionating stream out there today, because yeah, painting grass is not really this fascinating, but we can make it a bit more interesting, or I could show you how to actually make a relatively easy custom brush. So maybe I will do everything faster. So I can do like a strand like this. So let's say this is our strand of grass. I can select it and then go to edit, define brush preset. Let me turn on the display capture. So after selecting it, you go to edit, define brush preset, you name it like grass 01, press OK, and you basically have like a brush that is like a grass. It will be sitting on the bottom of everything. So I will move it to the top. Now in the settings in here, I can just play with it. So shape dynamics, size jitter, yes. Diameter, no. Angle jitter, slightly, like for roundness, a bit, yes. Flip X jitter, flip Y, so this way now the grass is basically going from left to right, which is kind of cool. And also I can go to spacing, so I can increase spacing. The size could be bigger, the difference, okay, something like this. More spacing, and I will add scattering. So scatter will kind of like move it from top to the bottom and increase count. So basically it will like double the thing. And now if I press in here, I can name it the same. And now I have like a custom brush with the settings applied. So this is basically the everything that you need to know about brush making. And now if I go back in here, I need to save it. Well, not display capture. I need to save it. Where it is? Here it is. So BG. Yeah, now as you can see, if I select the proper brush, I need to slightly adjust it because the shape difference is too big. The scattering is not really needed, and the spacing can be smaller. Now the shape can be a bit bigger, but not that big of a deal. And now when I paint, I can actually like fill out the entire like area with something that is kind of similar to grass within pretty much seconds. So I can just like choose a color, and now I can paint like with something like this. It's not the perfect solution, but it definitely is a good start, especially if I would be doing this from scratch, then I would say this is one of the best ways to approach it. Also in the background, because if I will paint with it in the background, instead of creating like a straight line, also actually color dynamics will be nice in here. So painting like every strand will be slightly different in color, but it needs to be like really subtle. So it will be just barely noticeable. Yeah. So with stuff like this, because this will like make the entire like outline of everything that I paint in here slightly more interesting. It's not a huge difference, but it might be noticeable. And also I always liked when something like this happened, that you have like a certain color and the color is slightly different because you zoom out, because you have some sort of a raster in here, so like darker and brighter spaces will make slightly different color when you zoom out, so it will look a little bit more subtle this way. So yeah. And of course, after doing so, like this, I will go with like a normal brush and just overpaint it. So I will get rid of this like mechanical repetition of everything happening in here. So I guess this is like enough to make it slightly more interesting. Maybe in here I need some more. And the new layer, to grab just like a normal brush and to start imitating the grass on the left. So I can add like all those random strands going here and there with different angles and whatnot. So yeah. So as you can see, there's basically nothing left out of the original photo in terms of like the textures and everything. Just the colors, pretty much just the colors are left. And this is exactly the only thing that I have needed from it, because it allows me to establish everything a bit more clearly, and also I can add a bit more like variety to it. So yeah, I could paint it from scratch, but again, this way it's much faster and the effect is just better. And honestly, I do believe if you were to take and paint over a photo plate and someone would like to like make problems out of it somehow, they could do it the same way if you would just like place it on the side and just copy from it or trace it out and paint it from scratch. I think the idea is exactly the same. But yeah, generally usually be aware of the fact that copyrights exist. And if the project is not commercial, no problems. If the project is commercial, just be aware of it. Because it had happened that, for example, in some big, like even AAA games, people were just going through the art books and they found out some artists like used their artwork in the concept. So they basically like stole someone else's concept art, painted over it, and it went to a different game. So it does happen, not like everyone knows, and that stuff like this is like highly illegal, but it will happen all the time. But if you have like an industry where like time management is extremely important and where you just need to be quick, then it's basically bound to be happen to happen. Like it has to happen at some point. Someone will just like steal the wrong thing and they will get caught somewhere. Also, a lot of the things, as far as I know, production wise never see the light of the day in many, as far as I know, especially in the movie projects, because a lot of the exploration and references is basically like content from that would be like pretty much illegal to be shown, because it will like violate a lot of different laws and everything in terms of like copyright. Because again, not everything needs to be like drawn on painted. If there's like a good solution somewhere out there, like in my opinion it should be used. But yeah, I guess I will shut up a bit and focus a bit more on drawing. Oh, and also the environment will slightly be adjusted to every single character a little bit more individually. So now I'm painting like the base in a sense, but then all the like small grass and stuff happening near feet, it will be like adjusted so it will look like the character is actually standing in the environment, so it won't look like odd. And also this way of painting is kind of funny for me, because back in the days when I was like starting, I always felt this like burning urge that I need to like paint every single thing perfectly, and then I was not really understanding the idea of suggesting some details. Now it's still not as easy for me as it should be, but now at least it can go through my mind. So like I can do something like this, let's say, and not have a problem that it does not look like a photo. Back in the days I was like almost paranoid with the fact that the textures are not like perfect and everything and yada yada. Dump habit really slowed down my process and progress of learning, but yeah, sometimes you just need to grow out of like the dumb beliefs that you have. And time to add some more random scrolls and whatnot. It can look a bit nicer. And the area in the middle is kinda important, but not that much, because like pretty much in every single character something in here will be obscured by like a character, so you won't be able to see it. But still some characters will have like thinner legs, will be just generally be smaller, so it still does require a bit of work. Yeah, and also for painting stuff like this, what I always liked is all this raster type of a stuff. So for example, yeah, let's lack Photoshop, great idea. So basically the idea of painting with rasters is pretty much like with shading. It's like you can use one color to get different colors. For example, if I use black like this, I will get like one, let's say gray, if I zoom out, but if I will like make it thinner and do it like this and like this is basically drawing with a raster. So now if I zoom out, this one is clearly darker, even though it's like the same color. So stuff like this can be like really easily utilized in painting, actually, to make it look nicer. And especially with stuff like this, sometimes it's just like necessary to use this type of visual tricks to make the thing look nicer, because it gives this like kind of pro quality to it. And also this is one of the problems why I have been always facing when I was like studying photographs and everything, like really back in the days, especially with sand or a lot of gravel or stuff like this. I never seemed to be able to grasp the proper color for the environment, and it was because it was lost not like a one color that I wanted to grab. It was like a lot of colorful stuff that together were giving me an impression of a certain color. So yeah, stuff like this do make the entire thing a bit harder. I kind of feel like adding a lake in there. In Heroes 3, I believe, if you have like a unit panel, it also displays a building in the background of the unit that you bought. It will be quite impossible to do in here, actually, because I have not like redesigned the city yet. But that's also a nice idea, nice touch. Yeah, for example, in here I can make like a really simple raster, so the thing will be slightly paler because I will like make some lines on it, and it would facilitate for everything to look a bit different. So it will be a little bit more vibrant. The colors will just jitter a bit more. It generally will look nicer if you do stuff like this. Also, this is a really cool way to like soften some edges. So for example, you can make some edges disappear by basically like dissolving them with the environment. It's one of the ways to work with stuff like this. And if anyone is interested, this is basically more blue than this because it's further in the distance, and the further away something is, the more aerial perspective kicks in. And since the air is basically like blue-ish, like the more air there is, the denser the amount, like the greater the amount of like air particles is there, so it's basically obstructing the view, and it's like recoloring and removing the detail from the faraway objects. So you are basically like looking at something through like a really thick layer of air. And if the air had like something in it that is red, then the thing that will be further away will be more reddish. So it's like the aerial perspective. I do think it looks okay-ish. I'm not a huge fan of this like diagonal line in here. I feel it kind of needs to be like balanced out by something in here, like something darker. So instead of having like this, I have like this and this and this to even it out slightly. Or I can just paint it from below to like cut the line in the middle. Now let me work on this rock. And also this is one of the coolest things that I always liked to do when I'm painting stuff in the distance. It's more of like a graphic shape type of a thing, because in here I don't really focus about any details whatsoever. I kind of just want to convey a shape by using like 2 or 3 different values, or 2 or 3 different colors, I should say, because now it's like the blue versus the brown make just the interesting composition out of those two shapes, to show like some form, to show the dimension that is in here. I always enjoyed doing stuff like this. So yeah, I do think it starts to look nice. And on the sky again, I could make everything like perfectly unified, so to use like blue really soft brush to achieve certain quality, but I really like this type of quality when you can like kinda see the brush strokes but not really. I think Ariel Perez is doing a lot of this stuff in his backgrounds. Ariel also is like one of the persons who write it to you. Ariel Perez. Highly recommend his art. This is E. Perez. He has a really cool style. In general, it's a really great artist. He achieved one of the not many things people can like flex on. Because once Dave Raposa published his stuff, and he was like, "Wow, this is cool." Like impressing Dave Raposa with your artwork is a milestone. This is like a goal for certain artists. Definitely it could be a goal for me to one day impress him with something. Raposa is one of my favorite artists ever. Maybe not purely by the style, but the work ethics and the general quality. Especially when I was like really young and I was mostly sitting on a DeviantArt when he was posting all this like photorealistic type of renders that he was doing, like when he used to be like younger than I am right now. So this is also kind of depressing. Oh. Yeah, I guess I can remove it. It will be nice. Whoops. Water ASMR. So it starts to look nice. Time to add some golden hues to the back. Some like bumps and shit and whatnot. Yes, for example, in here there's like a line that I don't really like, and I don't remove it, I just like go over it with like many vertical like lines to make it like darker, or I can like make the too bright of a line darker, yeah, to make it darker, and the last one to make it lighter. And oh, the first comment in the chat is a bot, nice. This is always something. Hello, bot. Properties done. Let's not promote some shitty stuff. Let's see what does the image autocolor wants. Well, auto contrast, oh, strong, auto tone, ugly. So I will just like level it a bit, so a bit more light, a bit of an increase in the contrasts, color balance, mid-tones no, but highlights, more yellow no, more blue no, more red and yellow, maybe slightly, just slightly. Okay. Yeah, so I guess the background is enough to look like this. So let's compare with the true rendering now. So let me remove those. So it's not much, but the change, yeah, but it is visible. Everything is like brighter and happier a bit now, maybe even too bright and too happy. Like desaturated. The thing that I definitely don't like after like placing it in here, that I can already see, is a fact that it looks like it's doing like kind of like this S type of a shape in here. I'm not a huge fan of it. You cannot really see like the shape of this mountain. So I need to cut it like in here. So it will actually look like a mountain a bit more. And I do need to get rid of like this bump in here. So I want it to serve as a background, not as something that will like introduce a lot of different like directions in here. So this blue thing could go more like this, and this can go more like this. So there is a chance it will be slightly cleaner look. And yeah, let me remove this guy. So this is the current rendering of the troll. Yeah, it looks okay-ish. So grass over G, grass over line art I can leave, this I can remove, this I can remove, this I can remove, this I will remove, this I will remove, this too, this too. Okay, so now this is like the thing that I wanted to do previously. So because I know the legs will be like in here, I also kind of want him to be in this environment. So on a separate layer, I will just need to paint some of the grass that he's stomping on in here. So there will be like an interaction of him with the environment. And on the same layer, I will, or on the layer below or below this layer, I will add the shadow. Because in here the light is going from left to the side. It basically will be like in the painting of Unli, and the shadow I will basically take like the darkest blue that I have in here. I'll just paint with it and put it on a multiply, and most likely then I will move it under the character, of course. And because the area that he is casting a shadow on is not like uniform, I will basically like paint it as I would paint the grass. Hello, boss GFX. Fucking cough. So yeah, also if you will like multiply the yellow, like the golden hue, and the blue, you will get something that is like greenish. And also this is like one of the reasons why most likely I will need to like decrease slightly the saturation and decrease the brightness of it. Now it looks okay-ish. Layers. How are you, Boss GFX? How's the life is going? So this is more or less the shadow. Of course, I won't be extremely like precise with it. I could be, but there is no need for me to like be turbo precise for it. It's just like the bare information that I need to remember to keep the shadow layer separately, like somewhere safe. So I can use the exactly same shadow on every single like character that I will do. Let's see, it will be important. Yeah, and the grass over. Whoops. Grass over all layers. I need to like grab this color of a grass. So the grass that is going over him will have like this hue. And also some of this like grass over need to go over the actual shadow, so like the sharp edge is not really visible anymore. Layer. I feel it should not go as deep as in here. Yeah, I guess this is like good enough. So now let me try to make it darker, more saturated. No, just darker. I do think some saturation is needed in there. Something like this is okay-ish. Later, I believe I will just paint over it. Hello, Furiat.